dreams shattered. Millionaire frozen in shock at 3 a.m. over girl who looks just like his ex. It was a night like no other in the glimmering city of Los Angeles. The clock struck 3, and the streets were blanketed in silence, disrupted only by whispers of shadows dancing beneath flickering streetlights. In his sprawling penthouse, Carl Matthews, a self-made millionaire known for his cold demeanor and iron facade, found himself paralyzed horror etched across his face. A figure loomed at the edge of his dreams, oscillating between reality and nightmare girl, uncanny in her resemblance to his long-lost love, Sarah. She stood there, her silhouette framed by the moonlight, casting an ethereal glow that made Carl's heart pound harder than the bass of his favorite club tunes. But this wasn't just a fleeting image. It felt overwhelming, too intense to ignore. The moonlight played tricks, making her eyes glimmer like twin stars. Was it hope or some cruel act of fate? Carl's breath hitched in his throat, a lump forming as he tried to separate reality from illusion. The echo of her laugh bubbled to the surface, so vivid it tugged at his very soul, reigniting old flames he thought were buried. And just as his fingers twitched to reach out, she vanished. Gone. An icy wind swept through the room, leaving Carl feeling more hollow than ever, like a dark void had consumed him. His chest tightened as confusion flooded his mind. What was happening? Was this a ghost haunting him from the past? A sign? Maybe he was losing grip on sanity. The shadows whispered around him, and the stillness trembled all at once. The familiar sound of rattling chains from the elevator echoed in emptiness, cutting through silence like a knife. He fought the urge to bolt to the door, questions swirling like a tempest. Who was she? Why did she look so much like Sarah? Could it really be her? Or was it all a trick of his subconscious? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the dreadful calm that followed, Carl's heartbeat thundered, echoing the uncertainty in his mind. He glanced at the wall, the red numbers of the clock ticking down mercilessly. Time was slipping away. Suddenly, the air shifted, thick with a lurking presence. A low, almost inaudible whisper drifted from the hall, something just beyond comprehension. Panic surged as he strode closer, fighting the clenching fear curling in his gut. He needed answers. The truth clawed at him, demanding to be uncovered. But as he inched toward the door, his hand hovering on the cool metal handle, a harsh crash reverberated through the penthouse, sending shivers down his spine. The lights flickered ominously, and he froze. What awaited him on the other side? Was she back? Or had something darker emerged from the night? The echo of that sudden crash reverberated in Carl's chest, his heart racing like a runaway train. Silence stretched, thick and suffocating, making it feel as if the very air around him had conspired against his sanity. He couldn't just stand there. The uncertainty clawed at him like the jagged edges of his psyche. He steeled himself and twisted the handle, the door creaking open as dread coursed through him. The hallway lay enveloped in murky darkness, shadows stretching and contorting like twisted fingers reaching toward him. Anxiety prickled at the back of his neck as he peered down the corridor, half hoping to see the girl again, the haunting beauty who felt so familiar yet so distant. Hello. His voice came out a shaky whisper, swallowed by the void. The hallway remained silent, but a chill crept up his spine, urging him to step forward. As he moved, the flickering lights above cast an eerie glow that played tricks on his mind. Every pop and crack echoed, amplifying his fear. What had made that noise? Was someone lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce? Suddenly, the elevator chimed, cutting through the silence like a knife. Each sound reverberated in the emptiness, and Carl's breath caught in his throat. A moment's consideration almost made him retreat, but curiosity propelled him forward. Maybe it was the answer he was searching for, that he turned, hurrying back to the elevator. The doors slid open with a mechanical sigh, revealing an empty compartment. He peered inside, his pulse racing. For a heartbeat, he wondered if he was losing it. Was he searching for something that wasn't there? Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he caught movement. He spun around, energy coiling in his gut like a sprung trap. But it was just the flickering light, or so he tried to convince himself. Get a grip, Carl, he muttered. Yet, the raw edge of fear still gnawed at him. He stepped back, mind racing. Memories of Sarah flooded back her laughter, the way her hair shimmered in sunlight, and the devastating way she had left. Moving with purpose, Carl fought against the urge to let fear constrict him. Focus, he whispered to himself, gripping the elevator door for support. I need to find the truth. He knew he couldn't stay trapped in this whirlwind of emotions forever. It was the past that haunted him, and perhaps this girl was a chance at redemption or a doorway to something sinister. He stepped into the elevator. The door closed behind him, sealing him away from the unknowns of the hallway. His mind raced with questions. Who was she? And why did she look so painfully familiar? The elevator lurched to life, descending slowly as a cold sweat broke on his forehead. The numbers above lit up, ticking down as if counting off seconds till he faced whatever lay below. But when the doors slid open again, revealing a dimly lit lobby, sorrows of the past rapidly coiled, tightening around him. Carl took a deep breath and stepped out into the shadows, every instinct screaming for him to turn back. The lobby was unnaturally quiet. He could feel the weight of his decision hanging in the air. Was this the moment he found answers? Or was he about to step right into a web of misfortune? As he stood there, the hairs on his arms prickling, he noticed a figure emerging from the depths of the darkness, a figure with familiar, ghostly eyes. His heart stopped. Carl, her voice floated towards him, pulling him in like a siren's song. But this time, there was no ethereal glow of the moonlight, only the chilling embrace of night. Who was she really? And what awaited him in the dark? The figure stepped closer, revealing features that mirrored Sarah's so perfectly, Carl could hardly breathe. It was as if every fear and longing he had buried came crashing down all at once. The air felt electric, heavy with lost memories and unanswered questions. Who are you? He managed to choke out, his voice cracking under the weight of confusion and dread. Carl, she repeated, but there was a softness to her tone, a familiar tenderness he had yearned for all this time. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered in his chest, but it was quickly swallowed by the gnawing uncertainty clawing at his insides. He took a step back, every instinct screaming for him to flee. But instead of leaving, he forced himself to stay, drawn in by the magnetic pull of her presence. What do you want from me? His heart hammered wildly against his ribcage, entangled in the web of emotions. It's not what I want. It's what you need to remember. Her eyes bore into his, a mixture of warmth and sorrow. Remember? Carl shook his head, feeling disoriented. I don't understand. You look like Sarah, but I lost her. She's gone. As he spoke her name, the words twisted in his throat like barbed wire, each syllable reminding him of the pain he'd hidden so deep. The girl in front of him stepped closer, her face a mirror reflecting his torment. I know, she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. But there are things you don't remember. You need to face them. Beneath the surface of her words, a chilling sensation crept into his chest. Face what? He demanded, a surge of anger mixed with the longing for the truth. What are you talking about? About the night she left. The girl's voice cracked with emotion. It wasn't just a breakup. It was so much more. The mention of Sarah triggered a storm within him, and Carl's pulse quickened. Memories, splintered fragments of that fateful night, flashed like an old film reel. A loud argument, a slam of the door, a final glance of desperation. You think you know what happened. Her voice broke through his turmoil, but you don't. It's tied to me. We're connected. A haze enveloped Carl, and he stumbled back, trying to break free from the chaos in his mind. You're not real. This is impossible. No, she pressed, urgency rising in her tone. I'm more real than you know. You have to believe me, Carl. We need to unlock that memory, or you'll never find peace. His chest tightened. Peace. What a cruel joke that seemed now. Faces formed in his mind. People he had pushed away. Choices he regretted. What had he done? A sudden crash upstairs jolted him from reverie, a sound like shattering glass. The girl gasped, instinctively stepping closer. They've come for you, who? Who's here? Panic surged through Carl, his heart racing anew. The shadows around them seemed to pulse, alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Listen to me. Her grip tightened on his arm, a lifeline in the chaos. You have to trust me. We need to leave now. Before what? But the question dissolved in his mind as he felt a deep rumble beneath his feet. Fear crashed over him like a wave, and instinct took control. Run, he shouted, pulling her forward just as the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. As they dashed toward the exit, he felt the cold fingers of dread at his back, urging him to turn and face whatever horrors lurked behind them. Would he finally face the truth? Or was he racing toward a fate more sinister than he could possibly imagine? He had no answers now, only the girl by his side and the shadows closing in. What was waiting in the dark, and how would it change everything he thought he knew? The darkness swallowed them whole as they burst through the door, the creaking would echoing in the silence behind them. Carl's heart thundered, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had to keep moving. Where do we go? He gasped, glancing over his shoulder. The shadows were thicker now, almost tangible, clawing at the corners of his vision. The girl, his Sarah's doppelganger, breathed heavily, her face pale but determined. To the basement. It's our only chance, she urged, her grip like iron. The thought of a basement sent icy fingers of fear down his spine. Why there? What's in the basement? Memories, she shouted back, panic lacing her voice. That's where we'll find the truth. We can unlock everything. Ignoring his instincts to question her, Carl followed her lead, his feet pounding against the worn wooden stairs. The air grew colder as they descended, a stark contrast to the chaos above. Each step felt heavier, weighed down by a sense of foreboding. When they reached the bottom, the darkness wrapped around them like a shroud. A single flickering light bulb swung overhead, struggling to illuminate the cluttered space filled with dusty boxes and forgotten relics. The musty smell engulfed him, breeding memories he couldn't quite grasp. The girl stepped further into the basement, and Carl watched as she rummaged through a stack of old boxes. We'll find what we need here, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I promise. Find what? He pressed, frustration boiling inside him. What happened that night? Tell me. She turned, her eyes shimmering with a fierce determination. The truth. About Sarah. About us. You need to know why she left. Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed from above, followed by a series of footsteps stomping down the stairs. His heart dropped as dread twisted in his gut. We need to hide, he hissed, grabbing her wrist. And oh, sooner had they ducked behind an ancient wooden beam than the door at the top of the stairs burst open. A dark silhouette filled the doorway, backlit by the dim light. It moved with an unsettling quietness, the type that made the hairs on Carl's neck stand straight. Carl. The voice was harsh and guttural. I know you're down there. This is your only chance to come out now. The girl pressed closer to him, her breath warm against his ear. It's him, the one who has been searching for you. Carl felt a cold shiver running down his spine. Who is he? What does he want? She shook her head, fear etching lines across her face. I don't know, but he has tied to your past tie to Sarah. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the upper floor, shaking the very foundation of the house and causing dust to fall from the ceiling. Carl, the voice called again, this time more desperate, more menacing. You need to choose, either come back to reality or face the consequences. Carl's pulse raced. Consequences? What did that even mean? The girl's grip tightened on his arm. You have to figure this out, Carl. Trust me, and we can make it through. But with each passing second, Carl felt the walls closing in, both literally and figuratively. What choice was there? And what truth lay buried beneath layers of fear and memory? As the footsteps approached, heavy and foreboding, one thought raced through his mind. He had to understand everything before it was too late. Could he unlock the truth before whatever hunted him found them? And would the revelation crush him or set him free? The door behind them creaked ominously, and Carl's heart raced. A choice loomed ahead, and time was running out. The footsteps drew closer, each thud resonating like a countdown in Carl's chest. Shadows twisted around the basement's corners, distorting the remnants of items long forgotten, as he and the girl crouched in silence. Beads of sweat traced down his back despite the chilling air. "What if he finds us?" Carl whispered, imagining the dark silhouette looming over them. "He can't know we're down here," she replied, her eyes wide and glassy, reflecting the flickering bulb's unstable light. "Stay quiet." The thumping overhead stopped, and a tense stillness blanketed the basement. A spike of dread chilled Carl's bones. Then came the sound, a slow, deliberate creaking as the intruder stepped toward the attic stairs, prying through every corner, searching for them like a predator prowling for prey. Carl! His name echoed through the house like a haunting melody, each syllable laced with malice. "You can't hide forever. It's time to face your past." Carl's heart raced. What past? What did he even remember? He shot a quick glance at the girl beside him, her brow knitted in fear, but also something else, determination. "We need to find the truth," she murmured, nodding toward the pile of boxes now scattered on the floor where she had rifled through moments before. He followed her gesture, and with shaking hands, they ventured from their hiding spot. Each box looked ordinary, yet heavy with significance. Carl's breath caught as he opened one, revealing a stack of old photographs fading with time. Images from a life before. "Sarah," he breathed, recognizing the smile that could light up his world. It felt like stepping on a razor blade, sharp and painful. The girl's fingers brushed his arm, grounding him amidst the storm of emotions. "Those are pieces of your life, Carl. We need to know what really happened." Before he could react, a thunderous noise shattered the air. The figure above roared in frustration, crashing down a broken table. Glass crunched underfoot. "You think you can escape what you've done?" Carl felt his gut twist at the accusation. What had he done? He clawed through memories, searching for the key to unlock the truth. Each image stirred a feeling deep within him, like echoes reverberating through time. "Look!" The girl pointed to a corner of the room where the light illuminated an old trunk, dust-covered yet seemingly untouched. "We have to check that. It might hold answers." With the thundering menace above, Carl rushed to the trunk, its rusty latch cold against his fingers. He hesitated, hearing the crashing footsteps creeping closer again. "We need time. We need to know," he urged, wrestling with his instinct to bolt from the noise. "Open it," she insisted, her eyes blazing with urgency. The trunk creaked open, revealing a trove of dusty letters, trinkets, and a singular, tattered diary. As he flipped through its pages, he realized it was filled with entries that felt unbearably familiar, the ink still wet with pain and longing. Suddenly, the heavy footsteps beat down the stairs, the doorknob rattling violently. "Carl!" echoed that voice once more, dripping with venom. "You can't hide from what you've lost." His heart sank as he felt the weight of his choice pressing down on him. Between the chaos of survival and the search for truth, which road would he take? "Trust me," the girl urged, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that felt electric. With a final, deafening crash, the door splintered inward, light spilling into their dark sanctuary. Carl looked at the girl, the diary clutched tightly in hand. The past, and whatever sinister fate awaited, was standing before them. In that moment, as shadows shifted and darkness conspired against them, Carl knew that the truth might tear him apart, or, perhaps, set everything ablaze. What awaited them in the room above? Would the answers they uncovered finally unveil the connection between him and Sarah or destroy their hope forever. The door burst open, splintering against the walls. Light flooded in, stark and unnatural, casting monstrous shadows that danced across the basement. Carl's heart thudded against his ribs, each beat like a death knell. It was all happening so fast. "Run," the girl whispered urgently, her voice cracking under the weight of panic. Before Carl could process it, she darted to the far end of the basement, pulling him along as the flood of light outlined the silhouette of the figure above. Carl could only glimpse a menacing shadow, large and menacing, framed by the doorway like a monster emerging from some dark fairy tale. "Where do we go?" He gasped, breathless, panic twisted in his gut. "Back here." The girl gestured toward a narrow passage, nearly lost to the clutter of forgotten memories. Carl hesitated, eyes darting back to the trunk, the diary still clutched tightly in his hand. "The truth is in the light, Carl," she urged. "Don't you see?" A guttural growl shot through the air as the figure stomped down the stairs, each step resonating through the wood as if the house itself trembled in fear. Carl's feet found the way to the narrow passage, and they squeezed through just as the figure lunged into the basement, blocking the exit. The space was cramped, filled with cobwebs and debris. They crawled through the tight tunnel, the scent of mold worsening with each passing moment. Every sound felt amplified the echo of their breaths, the pounding of Carl's heart, and the infuriated voice shouting his name. "Carl, you think you can escape?" A shiver crawled down his spine. He was a child again, hiding from a monster that he couldn't see, just the voice, full of rage and bitterness. The girl pressed closer, her warmth a fleeting comfort against the icy dread that had taken residence in Carl. The passage opened up, leading them into a small, confined room once filled with toys, now a graveyard of innocence. Dust motes danced in the dilapidated light, filtering through a grimy window. Carl's eyes fell upon a series of old lanterns. Could they light their way out? "This place, it feels like a trap," he whispered, dread wrapping around him. "Focus, Carl," she pleaded, her grip tightening on his arm. "There has to be something here that can help us." He nodded, forcing himself to search the room. His fingers brushed against worn-out fabric, the remnants of a teddy bear, and a rusted toy train that had seen better days. And then he spotted a dusty, old map tacked to the wall. It could lead them outside, could lead them away from the monster hunting them. This could be it, he exclaimed, but as he reached out, a crash echoed through the house, shaking the dust from the walls. The figure the monster had found them. He could hear it stomping through the basement, the anger palpable in the air. "It's now or never," Carl muttered, his throat tight. He snatched the map as a final crash followed, the sound of furniture being uprooted. "Let us go." They bolted back into the tunnel, just as the figure's shadow loomed closer. Carl's chest tightened as fear threatened to overtake him. Clenching the map tightly, he pushed forward, desperate to find their escape, desperate to share the truth he had only begun to grasp. "Do you think the map leads to safety?" She panted beside him, urgency lacing her voice that he hoped so, but that nagging question lingered in his mind. What if the truth wasn't what he expected? What if it jeopardized whatever fleeting hope they had to escape? They reached the end of the tunnel. Carl paused, staring at the light ahead, knowing the past and the monster that hunted them were just behind. In that moment, he felt utterly lost, a million pieces of him shattered into thin air. The light was just a step away, but danger loomed larger than life. Would the answers they sought lead them to safety, or would it pull them back into the darkness for which they were desperate to escape? With a shaky breath, Carl stepped toward the blinding light, knowing that whatever lay ahead could unravel them completely. What awaited them beyond the threshold? Would they be set free, or would they finally confront the monster that had haunted Carl's past? The light engulfed them. Carl stumbled forward, almost blinded. His heart raced like a runaway train. But as he squinted, the brightness began to shape into a scene in attic, filled with stale air and dust bunnies that had settled like forgotten dreams. "Where are we?" the girl gasped, brushing her hair back, her wide eyes searching the shadows. "I don't know." Carl answered, his voice shaky. The attic felt as if it had been untouched for decades. Old furniture sat beneath dusty sheets. Boxes lay haphazardly stacked against the walls. Cobwebs hung like veils, and the only sound was their rapid breathing and the muffled growls of the figure in the basement below. "Maybe we can find something here," she urged. "Something we can use to defend ourselves or find another way out." "Right," Carl said, his fingers trembling as he tugged at a corner of one sheet, revealing an ancient trunk. The hinges creaked ominously as he opened it, releasing a puff of dust that made him cough. Inside, there were old clothes, a faded summer dress, a boy's cap shaped like a baseball, and nothing that screamed help. Suddenly, the floorboards creaked below, shaking their fragile sense of safety. Carl held his breath, heart hammering. The figure was still hunting them, and time was running out. "We should keep moving," he said quickly, steering her toward a nearby window, which provided a glimmer of hope. It wasn't locked, just stiff from years of disuse. "Help me shove it open." The girl grasped the edge of the window frame, but the dust and rust held it tight. Carl planted his feet against the wall, and together they pushed with every ounce of strength left in their tired bodies. The window creaked before surrendering, swinging open with a scream that echoed into the night. The cool breeze rushed in, carrying the scent of moist earth and something unmistakably sinister. They had to be wary. Standing at the precipice, they glanced down. The ground was a solid 10 feet below, littered with debris and worse, unseen dangers. "Are you ready?" Carl asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am, but what if there is something waiting for us?" She shook her head, swallowing hard. "We don't have time to think. We have to go." With a nod, they climbed up to the narrow ledge, their bodies trembling with the weight of fear and adrenaline. Carl's breath hitched in his throat as he realized they were inching away from the dark grasp of the basement and the looming monster, but closer to the uncertain void outside. They jumped together. The thud of their landing sent a jolt through Carl's body, but the ground offered some semblance of safety. They scrambled to their feet, breathless and wide-eyed, scanning the area for refuge. Dark trees loomed around them like sentinels, but they didn't have the luxury of fear. Instinct kicked in, propelling them forward into the night. "Where are we?" the girl asked, looking around. The moonlight illuminated their surroundings, reflecting horror and confusion in her eyes. "It looks like some overgrown path," Carl replied, his heart still racing. "We need to keep moving. If we stay here, boom." Something else crumbled inside the house, sending up a cloud of dust that blossomed in the air. Moments later, heavy footsteps resonated like thunder behind them. The monster was right behind. Carl's stomach churned with dread. "Run," he shouted, and together, they sprinted down the path, branches tearing at their clothes, the world around them twisting into a blur of panicked shadows and silhouetted trees. But as they fled, a distant sound cut through the cacophony of their terror. A voice, familiar yet unsettling, whispered something. It was faint, almost melodic, wrapping around Carl's mind like a fog creeping in. "Carl, come home," he stumbled, the name echoing with a nagging pang of recognition. "Don't stop," the girl shouted, yanking his arm before he could fall behind. "Did you hear that?" He gasped, his chest tightening. "Yes, but we don't have time. We need to go." But Carl couldn't let go. The voice lingered, entwining with his fears, something deeply unsettling, flickering behind it. What waited for him at the edge of their escape? And why did that voice feel like barbed wire wrapped around his heart, drawing him back toward the darkness? Clarity eluded him, even as he sprinted closer to the one question that haunted him. Who was really hunting them? The path wound deeper into the woods, the moonlight casting eerie shadows around them. Carl felt the pulse of his heart in his throat, fear mingling with the dread of that voice. It echoed in his mind like a siren, pulling him towards something he couldn't grasp. "Carl," the girl shouted as she yanked him along. "We need to focus." And push, they did, legs pounding against the earth. Twigs snapped underfoot. Leaves rustled like whispers urging them to flee. Each step made Carl feel more lost, confusion mounting as adrenaline surged through him. What if it's a trap? He gasped, glancing back over his shoulder. The silhouette of the house loomed against the night sky, its windows like dark eyes watching their flight. "Just trust me," she yelled, determination fueling her voice. But trust was a flimsy thing right now. Carl felt pulled apart at the seams. Why had that voice felt so familiar? He had to know. It sounded like stop. She struck a sudden halt, eyes darting to the left. "Do you hear that? It's close." And then, through the rustling of trees, they heard it a thud, like something heavy crashing through the underbrush. It wasn't he, just a monster anymore. There was something else, something that sent fresh ice into Carl's veins. Panic etched lines across the girl's face. "We can't stay here." But Carl held her arm. "What if we can find out where the voice came from?" His mind raced. If he could understand, if he could piece this together, maybe they'd stand a chance. "We have to go back," he said, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "No, we leave. Now," she insisted, but her own voice trembled. "Just a minute." He began moving toward the sound, a magnetic pull guiding his steps. Something was alive in the woods, some primal instinct that had made it feel welcoming, as if it were all leading him to a hidden truth buried deep under the layers of fear. The girl hesitated behind him, lips pressed tightly. "You're making a mistake. We shouldn't go back." But Carl pressed onward, driven by the compulsion of that voice. As they approached a thicket, shadows twisted around them, and the air thickened with tension. He could hear it now, the whispers growing louder, blending into an incoherent chant that tugged at the edges of his sanity. Carl's name came again, clear and sharp, slicing through the fear like a knife. The girl's grip tightened on his arm as they stepped through the shadowed grove. They emerged into a tiny clearing bathed in moonlight. And there, beneath the gnarled branches, lay a withered, old diary half buried in the earth. "Look!" Carl pointed, exhilaration mixed with terror. "Don't touch it," she exclaimed, eyes wide. "What if it's cursed? We have to keep running." "Wait." He bent down, heart racing, digging it out of the dirt with trembling hands. The leather cover was cracked, stained, but there was something about it, something that felt almost familiar. The moment he opened it, a gust of wind rushed through the clearing, swirling leaves and their hair around them. As he flipped the pages, his eyes widened at the sketch on the page, a girl with the same wide eyes as his companion, all drawn in delicate strokes. "What in the world?" he whispered. The girl leaned in closer, reeling back in disbelief. "That looks like me." And then, as if the woods had ears, they heard the thrumming heartbeat of something approaching, a dark figure piercing through the shadows, drawn toward them, each step resonating with ominous intent. Carl's breath caught. They could no longer ignore it. "Run back," the girl shouted, panic breaking the spell. But he couldn't move. Not now. Standing between the monster and the truth, he felt a rush of defiance. Maybe this was it, the moment that would define everything. Before he could think, he gripped the diary, ready to confront whatever was coming to claim them. "I don't want to find out who I am when I know the truth." The ground trembled, and in that instant, both hope and dread battled within him. What would this knowledge bring? As darkness loomed closer, Carl's voice shattered the silence. "Who are you?" A wicked laugh reverberated in the air, chilling him to the bone, just as a new shadow fell between them and the creature emerging from the trees. The next step could change everything, but who would take it first? The shadows thickened as the chilling laughter echoed louder, wrapping around Carl like cold arms reaching out, suffocating his breath. He felt the diary heavy in his hands, a connection tying him to its secrets, but the present terror was overwhelming. It loomed closer, an embodiment of everything he feared of the unknown and the whispers that felt like shards of past memories. "Carl!" The girl tugged at his sleeve, her voice trembling with urgency. "We have to go now." But he remained frozen. The figure before them seemed to twist, merging with the shadows, creating an unsettling silhouette. It was more than just another nightmarish creature. It was something that seemed aware, something that knew them. "Who are you?" He yelled again, trying to be brave, trying to summon a strength he didn't feel. The diary rustled with a life of its own, as if calling to him to look closer, to sift through its pages, and to uncover the truth. With each heartbeat, a wave of recognition hit him, a blurry memory threatening to surface. As if on cue, the shadow leapt forward, and Carl's world shrank to that singular moment. The feeling of extreme danger balanced on a precipice of discovery that could lead him to understanding everything or tear him apart. "Please, please." The girl's desperate whisper cut through the tension, and suddenly, Carl saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. She was terrified, and that fright radiated from her. The shadow quivered as it approached, and beneath its dark form, Carl could make out features that told a haunting tale. "Stop right there," he shouted, his voice louder now, his body shuddering with adrenaline. And that laugh responded again, mingling with the wind, a haunting melody. "You think you can command me? You don't understand any of this." A flicker of light crossed the clearing, a moment of clarity as the figure stepped just slightly into the moonlight. The distinct outline of a face loomed, twisted into a mocking grin. Carl's stomach nodded. The face looked eerily familiar. It resembled the girl beside him, but older. This couldn't be possible. "What is happening?" Carl could barely whisper. "What do you want from us?" "Answers, dear boy," the figure teased, each word dripping with sarcasm. "And you'll find them in the pages that bind you together." The girl gasped beside him, realization hitting her as she took a step back. "No, it can't be. This was supposed to be a myth. Not real." "Everything is real, sweetheart," the figure cooed. "And every detail you find within those pages will be mind-bending. You both seek the truth, just like I did once. Don't listen to it." Carl turned to the girl, panic thrumming through him. "Stay back." But the pull of the diary was strong, and a strange compulsion urged him to step forward. He could feel its energy pulsing beneath his fingertips, a force that urged him to know, thrusting him into the dark embrace of whatever this is. "Remember your bond," the figure hissed, eyes narrowing. "Every secret buried comes with a price. Will you sacrifice it all for a glimpse of the truth?" Carl looked deep into the girl's eyes. They shimmered with unspilled tears, and in that moment, he saw fear mingled with an undeniable bond between them. A wave of understanding crashed over him. Something significant was at stake. He clenched the diary tightly, the weight of the choice bearing down on him. He could escape or confront it all, but he couldn't ignore his gut screaming at him to act. "What is the truth worth?" he shouted, his words cutting through the tension like a knife. Night wrapped tighter around them, and the shadow loomed ever closer. Carl took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever came next. They were tangled in something larger than themselves, and whatever lay ahead might change everything, but the choice weighed heavy. "Will you risk it all?" the figure demanded, and with an exasperated pull, Carl felt every muscle tense. In that breathless moment, the world narrowed. The heartbeats, the whispers, and the shadows danced around them. And in the moonlit clearing, Carl held the diary tightly, as it seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own. What would he decide? The truth awaited, just beyond the edge of reckoning. And the darkness crept closer, refusal not an option anymore. Carl's heart raced as he clutched the diary, the sinister figure waiting just beyond. The air thickened with unspoken dread, and for a heartbeat, he remembered Sarah, the warmth of her smile, the sound of her laughter, and the painful moments they shared. It all surged back, flooding him with memories that felt like shards of glass piercing his chest. "Will you risk it all?" the figure challenged, voice echoing through the stillness, drawing them into an ethereal dance of fear and longing. "I can't go back," Carl whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Yet, like a moth to a flame, he felt an insatiable urge to confront the past, to discover the secrets locked away with Sarah's name. The girl beside him looked on with wide, glassy eyes, an echo of his own fears reflecting back at him. With each beat of his heart, he realized the truth wouldn't just surface without sacrifices. "I need to know," he answered, forcing the words out, rigid with resolve. "I have to face whatever this is." The figure's grin widened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. So brave, but bravery may cost you dearly. Before Carl could process the gravity of his words, the figure lunged. Carl heard a crackling sound, like thunder rumbling in the distance, and fear twisted his gut. He didn't let go of the diary. Instead, he held it tighter, grounding himself against the onslaught of terror inching closer. "Carl!" the girl cried out, pulling back, her voice choked with fright. "Don't! We can escape." But he could see it now, the truth, so close it felt palpable, like air pressing down on him. His determination bubbled over. "No!" He stepped forward. "We can't keep running. This is what I need. This is what we need." Suddenly, everything swirled in blinding chaos. The diary glowed, and the pages whipped open, revealing haunting memories. Carl felt time collapse around him, echoes spilling forth fragments of that night, when everything shattered. He saw Sarah's eyes, so full of life, now dimmed by anguish. Bits of raw emotion sliced through him: anger, regret, heartache. Each recollection flooded him like a tidal wave, and he struggled against the pull. "Look carefully," the figure taunted as the shadows danced around them, emerging from forgotten corners. "What will you uncover? Are you prepared? I have to know," Carl shouted, voice echoing as the overwhelming tide of memories turned to a frantic search for clarity. He focused on the pages, forcing himself to confront the past. As he did, the shadows receded slightly, revealing fragments of light that guided them. The girl's touch anchored him as she moved closer, urging him on. "See, Carl, remember what you've forgotten. Unlock your heart." Carl nodded, squeezing his eyes tight. He mustered all his strength and opened himself to the deluge of emotions, ready to face the monster that had tormented him for far too long. "I remember," he gasped, breath hitching as fresh clarity filled him. "I remember the argument at Wasn't because I didn't love her. I was scared. I pushed her away." And with those words, something cracked, a shattering wave against the wall he built around his heart. The world around him flickered, and the figure shrieked, its form faltering as the shadows recoiled. "Release the burden. Find peace," the girl cried, her bright eyes a beacon in the swirling chaos. With newfound courage, Carl plunged deeper, pouring everything that had haunted him into the light. The diary pulsed between them, a bridge connecting them to the truth. They both pressed forward, ready to free themselves from the shadows lurking by the memories he had long avoided. And like smoke dispersing in the daylight, light enveloped them, blinding and relentless. They clung to each other, heartbeats synchronized, every fear battling against the illumination swirling around them. "I want to let you take her from me," Carl shouted at the figure, the last vestige of darkness collapsing under the weight of their resolve. The figure howled, twisted in pain, and exploded into a cloud of shadow, a fading echo against the backdrop of clarity rising in there. Consciousness, as the light dimmed back down to normal, Carl felt weightless, as if burdens had evaporated. "Is it over?" he murmured, looking to the girl, her eyes softened, warmth flooding back into their depths. "We faced it, Carl. Together." "Yes, but what now?" he asked, confusion swirling. Life lay before him, raw and fresh, but the aftermath of his choices loomed. "Now we build anew," she replied, stepping forward bright and steady. "You can't change the past, but you can honor it, let the love-lost carve a path forward." In that moment, clarity enveloped them like a comforting embrace. Carl nodded. Time to live not in shadows, but in light, fueled by the connection that bound their hearts. Together, they turned from the remnants of the past, ready to embrace whatever future awaited them. Carl felt free, unchained from the shackles of sorrow, where the weight of truth gave him wings that soared higher. And as they walked into the dawn, a friendship born from pain blossoming into hope, he knew this was just the beginning. So, what do you think happened next? Was Carl truly ready to face the world again? If you're as invested in this story as I know you are, now is your moment to show your support. You need to hit that subscribe button don't miss the next epic journey. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and help more people find these stories we love. And flood the comments with your thoughts. What do you think Carl should do next? Let's hear your theories. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. True fans like you know how important it is to support the channel through these actions.